On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
1, 2, 3.
This is The Ticket High School Saturday.
Well done, well done, well done.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Let's go 3-0 and let's come sit down and drink some Gatorade.
Live from the Koppel Chevrolet GMC studio. Here is your host, Nick Sainert.
Good morning. Happy Saturday, folks. This is the High School Saturday Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert here with you for an abbreviated time this morning because the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show begins live from Tipsy Tina's at 8:30. So we'll go until just about a 20 or 25-minute show this morning for the High School Saturday, and then the rest of the gang from the Ticket here will get you ready for Huskers and Buckeyes starting at 11 a.m., but they'll take you all the way up to kickoff starting at 8:30 live from Tipsy Tina's. Also, it's going to be kind of nice tonight. I saw that there's a high of 69, which is pleasant, I think, because I hate the cold, and we need to get back to 60s and 70-degree weather before it's too late. Stop by. This is just a general reminder. Stop by the Upside Bar and Lounge tonight for all the UFC fights. I know there's a good card tonight, and make sure to stop by on Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. for the Ticket Weeknights with Nicole Griffith, live on location. Happer will be there. DP will be there. Myself will be there. Live at location at the Upside Bar and Lounge at 27th and Pine Lake. They'll have Monday Night Football on the TVs. Obviously, it's taco night every Monday. That's this Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Upside Bar and Lounge at 27th and Pine Lake. So here's kind of the way that this show is going to work today, since we have to do it in a quicker amount of time. We're kind of going to go through a couple of the games, including Gretna, Elkhorn South, Bennington, Waverly, and then Bellevue West and Grand Island. And then also we'll talk about a C1 game between 8-seed Pierce and number 1 seed Ashland Greenwood. There was a good one out there in Ashland Greenwood, I believe, last night that Luke Mullen actually was at. However, since we're doing a shorter show and Luke Mullen had a crazy busy night last night, he's not going to join us. He texted me and he goes, "Nick, I'm going to be home past 1:30 a.m. I can't get up that early." And I said, "Hey man, that's all good." So he'll join us next weekend, give us the rundown after the semifinals. But let's dive into it. As always, 402-464-5685, the Sartor Heyman text line, and the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Both of those are open for you all half hour long, as well as on the Sartor Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Throw your comment in the chat there. I'll be able to monitor that, and we'll be good from there. I know we usually have a couple of people text in about some smaller schools, so please continue to do that, as without Luke, I can only be stretched so far. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to dive into football first, and then we're actually going to do some volleyball as well, because state volleyball is going on down at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So we will kind of give you the updated brackets. They're getting to the later rounds today, so there's going to be some games today. There was a good 5-set thriller between Millard West and Elkhorn South, I want to say, but I'll get all that out of the way here in due time. So I want to start with this one. Omaha North is continuing their Cinderella run. And when I say Cinderella run, it kind of feels like a Loyola Chicago type of run for the Omaha North Vikings. They started out the season 0-5. I mentioned that last week. They go on the road at Millard South with Gage Stanger at quarterback and linebacker playing both sides of the football there. Husker commit, formerly a Kansas State commit, then flipped to Nebraska. And with Gage Stanger at quarterback, Omaha North was able to go on the road and upset probably the most complete team I have seen in a while. I mean, Bellevue West has obviously had some good teams. Lincoln Southeast last year, if we want to talk about local teams, had a really complete team last season. Lincoln East was pretty complete. They were missing some guys on defense that really could put them over the top. And we saw that happen against Gretna and why Lincoln East fell short last week. But in the week one, in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, Omaha North was able to beat, or I should say the first round of the high school playoffs, Omaha North was able to beat Millard South 49-42. Then they had to go on the road once again. Omaha North went on the road last night at North Platte. And if you've been listening to the show or listening to me talk at all, North Platte really likes to run the football. They have Vince Genatone in the backfield, Caleb Tonkinson, who hasn't been asked to pass over 8 times in a single game. They average over 300 rushing yards every single week. And you're looking at that and seeing ball control and slowing the pace of the game down. And you kind of wonder how Omaha North is going to handle that. Well, I'll tell you this, Omaha North is now in the semifinals of the Class A tournament or football playoff bracket after a 35-34 win over North Platte. So Omaha North, after starting the season 0-5, they are now at 7-5 after 2 wins in the playoffs that not many people saw coming. Like I said, I was still thinking last night when I was preparing for this morning's show, I was still thinking about how wild it was that they upset Millard South. Because when I tell you this, folks, you guys have known me, how I've kind of talked about the talent and just kind of the gap in Lincoln and Omaha football. And I mentioned that a couple weeks ago I went to that Lincoln East and Creighton Prep game up in Omaha, but then that one turned ugly quick for Lincoln East. So start of the third quarter or so, I went over to Millard South and Omaha Burke. And that was the game that Nebraska was on a bye week, and so Eric Shenander and a couple guys were there to watch Gage Stanger, who was actually injured in that game. And when I tell you that Christian Nash may have been my favorite running back to watch for Millard South, that's not an understatement. He's going to Northern Illinois. He's a lot of fun to watch and runs really, really hard through the tackles. And I would put him up next to LJ Richardson of Bellevue West about being one of the top running backs in the state. So Omaha North, congrats to the Vikings. They will travel to Gretna next week to play the Gretna Dragons after Gretna tops Elkhorn South 14-7 last night. The way that this one kind of panned out, Gretna was they scored the first touchdown of the game. Elkhorn South did, I should say, on a Will Stratus touchdown from 28 yards out. So a quarterback run, kept it in from 28 yards out. And this was a game that involved a little bit more defense than offense. And it's kind of interesting to look at it that way because last week, I talked about it. Luke was there as well. Happer was calling the game. You heard it on the ticket here. And Gretna really showed that they had a high-powered offense if needed. And obviously, you guys have heard, the name Zane Flores and stuff, and we have talked about Zane Flores, and that was the big storyline going into the first round of the playoffs was the quarterback matchup between Noah Walters at the time and Zane Flores, and that's why that 12 versus 5 seed matchup in the first week was so intriguing, was because you had this guy in Zane Flores who's a junior but can really, really throw the football. And sometimes one thing with Zane Flores, kind of watching him and talking to people that have watched him and watched film on him, he struggles to throw to his left a little bit, which can be a characteristic of a lot of high school quarterbacks. But he struggles to throw to his left if he's rolling out to his left. So it was really interesting to see how Lincoln East was trying to force him to the left, while Gretna was their play calls were designed for him to throw to the strong side of his right side. But we kind of talked about it. That was the big storyline. And one thing that kind of worried me watching Gretna was that their defense was not performing the best that first week against Lincoln East. However, this week, fast forward to a game against Elkhorn South, where Elkhorn South beat Kearney last week 35-20. Once again, this game was at Elkhorn South as well, so not an extremely long drive for Gretna, but it was still on the road and on a field that you're not used to. Don't have your home crowd backing you up. Students might not travel as well to road games. Plus, the weather's colder. And to be fair, I mean, Gretna showed the first week of the playoffs when I got to watch them in person. They have an incredibly balanced offense. They really like to run the ball and pass it because obviously with Zane Flores at quarterback, they they will try to squeeze all the talent and all the high-profile plays out of him that they can. But I was concerned about their defense going up against Elkhorn South. And they proved me wrong. They proved that they can win the close game last night as they beat Elkhorn South 14-7. And I kind of mentioned that this was a low-scoring game. So Elkhorn South scored in the first quarter, and then there was no scoring until the third quarter when Zane Flores connected on a 5-yard touchdown pass to Tyson Boganowski, tied things up at 7, and that's where it would stand until the fourth when it was 7-7. Zane Flores then hit Joe Roll on a 61-yard touchdown pass, which extended the Dragons' lead, and that's basically how that one ended, was because they were just able to connect on a couple passes, and they didn't turn the football over. So when you're talking about, and we talk about it with the Huskers every single day, when you're talking about winning the close game and what it takes to win the close game, and especially at the high school level, you cannot turn over the football. If you've been watching Lincoln High School football, you would know that, because a couple weeks ago when Elkhorn South and Southeast played, Lincoln Southeast turned over the football a couple times, and that was their bugaboo of what happened. And just any game, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that. You guys are smart, and you understand that you just cannot turn over the football in a one possession game. That can be a backbreaker. So now, next Friday, November 12th, Omaha North and Gretna square off in the matchup we all predicted, right? So there is, we do not know how Omaha North is going to continue. You kind of want to continue seeing this run. However, Gretna is quite dangerous, and it's going to be quite a bit of fun to watch. So, as always, 402-464-5685. If you're tuning in wondering where the pregame show is for Husker football, it does not start till 8:30. So we have about 10 minutes left of this show, High School Saturday, sponsored by Ambition Electric. And we'll get you guys out to Tipsy Tina's, where Happer and Sipple will have the first segment, getting you guys ready for Huskers and Buckeyes, which hope the Nebraska Cornhuskers kind of show out there to which is something that would be a pleasant sight. I think we can all agree on. Let's head to Class B really quickly. So number 1 seed Bennington had to travel to had to host Waverly last night. And so Bennington and Waverly played last night on Friday, and Bennington still showed that they deserve to be the number 1 seed in the Class B rankings, because they dominated Waverly 41-0 last night. Waverly struggled really to get anything going through the air on the ground, as their quarterback Cole Murray led them in passing yards and rushing yards. He had 52 passing yards and 59 rushing yards. However, if you guys want to see somewhat of a smaller school in Bennington who has a monster at running back, go check out Dylan Mostek of Bennington, because he entered the game, and I'm not going to mess this up here because I'm looking at it on my computer. And so obviously when you have to prepare for the high school show, you have to wait until it's pretty late to get all the results and all the stats. And we can talk about that, about how, schools and coaches might not put the stats in very quickly, but that's not what this is about. But Dylan Mostek of Bennington came into the game with 2,472 yards rushing this season. Just this season. 2,400 rushing yards this season. Dylan Mostek of Bennington. He had 95 in the first half, and then he finished the game with only 147. Only 147. And so Bennington with a massive 41-0 win over Waverly last night. And I'll pull up the bracket here to kind of give you guys the rundown of the rest of the bracket here. So Bennington now faces Elkhorn High next weekend after Elkhorn beat Seward 35-20 last night. But back to the Bennington game. On the second play of the second half, Mostek took a carry to the house, 56 yards out, made it 35-0. And that's one of those games where at the high school level, especially, asking a team to score 35 points and a half while holding the other team scoreless extremely difficult to do, no matter how high-powered your offense is, and Waverly's offense isn't that deadly. And so Waverly, the 7 seed, unfortunately gets sent home, and Bennington moves on and improved to 11-0. Let's see what this average is. I'm not a big math guy, but let's see. So 2,472 divided by 11 games. He's averaging 225 rushing yards a game. Dylan Mostek of Bennington. So, like I said, next week, if you find yourself around Omaha, the Omaha area, want to watch some Class B football, head over to Bennington and Elkhorn, because you'll be able to see Dylan Mostek and the defending state champion Elkhorn. And that's kind of crazy if you think about it, because you're sitting here watching Elkhorn, and they were the defending champion last year, and they're not the top team in Class B. It was kind of interesting to see how the Class B is such a jumbled kind of mess, because you have no idea each week who's going to come out of it. Last night, Omaha Skutt beat Plattsmouth, so that was a 6-3 upset. Omaha Skutt was the 6 seed. Plattsmouth was the 3 seed. Skutt beat them 20-10 on the road. And then Aurora topped Scotts Bluff at home 34-14. Aurora is a dangerous team to watch. Aurora is going to be an interesting one. So if you're out at Aurora, watch Omaha Skutt and Aurora next Friday night as well. As always, 402-464-5685. Once again, we have about 5 minutes left of this show. Then we'll send it out to Connor Happer and Steve Sipple and the rest of the gang as they get you ready for the Huskers and Buckeyes today. Big Sky's here. Big Sky, how are we feeling about Huskers Buckeyes? He gives me a thumbs up. As in Huskers win. He's shaking his head no. Go ahead, pull it down. Let's do this. So how are we feeling about Huskers Buckeyes here, man?
I think we're going to get to see the 5th best team in the country.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to see one team play some really good football out there today.
And is it going to be Nebraska?
No, Nebraska is not going to be playing good football out there today.
All right. Do you have a score prediction?
I mean, I think the spread's pretty good at 15, so I'll take the Huskers to cover and lose by 14.
Okay. Good teams cover.
No, good teams do not cover. It's a double-digit spread. Doesn't mean you're a good team.
But it's against an Ohio State team.
Nebraska's really good against the spread this year, so I like to give them that. Except for, with the exception of Minnesota and Purdue, they were really good against the spread. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Big Sky.
You're welcome.
So yeah, they'll have that from at 8:30 live from Tipsy Tina's. Also, it's going to be nice out, so head downtown because it's going to be a cool atmosphere. Hopefully, it's a cool atmosphere until the game starts. Who knows how the game affects that? But we'll kind of see how that goes. All right, for the last couple minutes, I want to make sure we touch on volleyball because I want to give them their due diligence here. And if we have extra time, we'll backtrack to football. Kelsey says this on the text line: Aurora will win it all. They have the Haitian sensation, and that's like a cheat code. So mark it on the books. We can write it on the whiteboard that we have here that we use for our predictions that Aurora will come out of Class B and win it all. So that state championship game is actually next 2 Mondays from now, November 22nd at 7:15 p.m. So that'll be interesting. I kind of hope that I always like it when teams from farther away make it to the state title because then those are teams that you're not going to drive 4 hours on a Friday night. And I'm not saying Aurora's 4 hours away, but you're not going to drive a long distance on just a Friday night to go watch some high school football. So when a team like Aurora and a team like Bennington or if, Plattsmouth would have made it or anybody like Scotts Bluff would have made it. Those are teams and games that you kind of sometimes want to go check out. All right, let's talk about volleyball here momentarily. So today it's state finals day, which is going to make, I didn't even think about this until now. That's going to make this this atmosphere down in downtown and around the rail yard and the Haymarket, that's going to make this even better because there's going to be state finals volleyball going on. In Class A action, you have Papillion La Vista South, the number 1 seed, facing Millard South tonight at 7 p.m. in the Class A final, so go check that one out. Papillion La Vista South has not lost a single set this state tournament. They swept Fremont in the first round and swept Elkhorn South in the semifinals. And I mentioned before the show started, or right before as the show began, that Millard West had a 5-set thriller. They had that in the semifinals against Omaha West Side. Won the first set, lost the second set, won the third set, lost the fourth set, and won the fifth set 15-12. So once again, tonight, 7 p.m., it's Papillion La Vista South and Millard West taking you there. I'll get the other ones here from the other classes. Let's look at Class B. Once again, Norris, and I have to shout out Norris Volleyball for Joe Davis. He texted me before the show, and he said, make sure, I can't call in today, but make sure you give a shout out to the Norris Volleyball team. Won in 3 sets on Wednesday and came back last night to win in 5 after being down 2-1 in the match, and they sure did. They beat Adams Central in the first round, and then they swept Adams Central in the first round to get a matchup with Elkhorn North in the semifinals. And like Joe said, they were down 2-1 and came back and won it in 5. So the number 1 seed Norris Titans would prevail, and they are still playing in the championship today against number 2 seed Scott at 5 p.m. So if you're not doing anything tonight after the game, hey, head over to PBA because you'll be able to watch a state title game at 5 p.m., and then you'll be able to watch the Class A games at 7 p.m. as well. If you're looking for some smaller schools, let's look at C1 for volleyball. The final that's going to be at the Vanny. This will be at the Devaney Center, Kearney Catholic and Lincoln Lutheran. So congrats to Lincoln Lutheran for making the state finals there. We have about a minute left here in the show. And so we will wrap it up here and get you guys out to Tipsy Tina's in the Haymarket. So once again, let's look at a couple of the matchups. We'll run through the brackets one more time if you're just joining us, and we will get you guys there. So Class A, next Friday night, you have Omaha North, who won 35-34 over North Platte. The 16 seed Omaha North advances to play Gretna next week on Friday. Then at the bottom part of the bracket, it's Bellevue West, who won in dominating fashion over Grand Island, 52-20. LJ Richardson had carried the rock for 20 times, 171 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he was also credited with a touchdown pass. They will face Omaha Westside, who had a dominating 42-3 victory over Omaha Burke on Friday. That is all for us today. Stick around. The A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show is next. We'll talk to you there.
The party is back on in Lincoln this fall, and there's no party like the A1 Automotive